And it's the Pirate Broadcast today, and we are here. We are awake. We are doing something interesting with interesting people, and people doing interesting things. And today, I want to bring out Mike. Mike is someone that I've been connected with for some time now, and he's gone through a lot of changes, a lot of growth, a lot of transition, and I just find it fascinating. So I thought I'd bang on his door and say, "Hey, Mike, let's talk about what you're doing, what you're up to." And so, Mike, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Dude, fantastic. Thank you for having me. I know we were just saying earlier, like it's crazy. We've known each other for a few years and haven't really actually ever had a conversation outside of just the direct message. So this is pretty awesome to hear from you. And I went ghost this last year and a half on social, and this last month or so kind of came back out of my cocoon, if you will, and had a pretty big life change journey in this last year or so, and I kind of felt more confident to come back to social media.
Well, it's social media is a double-edged sword because we all, it's this innate ability to want to connect with people. We want to connect, we want to build community, and it's really can be challenging at times because you think you have to keep up with the person to you and everything going
Sure.
on, and sometimes you just have to unplug and say, okay, I'm just gonna unplug, relax, recover, and connect with my family or my friends or whatever in real life and do that. So I love that you did that, and so talk a little bit about what you've been doing in the meantime to haven't been
Yeah,
on social. So
for sure. So I think the big thing for me was that I felt really disconnected with myself. That was a huge portion of why I stopped really creating content, and I just felt like nothing I was doing was purposeful anymore. And
mhm.
and sort of this year is pretty wild for me to actually be on the show with you right now, because so 2 days ago was my 1 year anniversary of a weight loss journey this last year, which took me 1 year.
Amazing.
Yeah, 1 year ago, I weighed in at 460 pounds, and I lost almost 200 pounds in about a year, um, all through
That's
just. Oh, good.
insane. I saw the video in the car, and you're talking about this. So,
Yeah, man, and it was kind of one of those things. It's just I've struggled with my weight, depression, mental health my whole life. It's been an ongoing battle, and I think just binge eating has always been the only thing that really I could relate to, because it was the only thing that I could find that would feed this unfillable thing inside
mhm.
of me. And so I developed and worked on a fasting protocol with this gentleman, Nick Dompierre, that I connected through Instagram. Actually, it was a random kind of scroll I saw before and after, and that kind of led me into this interesting world of understanding what prolonged fasting does to your mental health. And I kind of had this statement of being without taught me to go within, and that's kind of the best way I could describe fasting, because it
Mm.
got me to this point where I didn't have anything to feed my addiction anymore, and I was like, wow, I'm actually very aware of my everything about me now, and I kind of know all the variables and things that affect me. And the times of this last year where stress, anxiety, depression, that hit multiple times through this last year, and I would typically buy like two large pizzas and just eat my feelings legitimately. And I just decided that, like, once I started fasting, that attachment was no longer a thing anymore. And so this last year has been pretty revolutionary for that, for sure.
So I want to break this down a bit because I'm fascinated by this because there's a lot more uh, content around, at least on social media, and about fasting, intermittent fasting. A friend of mine, Red O'Loughlin in Houston, he's an advocate for fast. He's like this brainiac on kind of health and fitness.
Sure.
He's an old gentleman that's been studying this thing for years, and there's a lot of research around the fact that fasting actually resets some of your metabolism and some of the things in your body. And I'm gonna mess it up if I try to even guess on all of the facts. However, however, the biggest takeaway that I just heard you say is that it helped you dive in and really explore the cause of your binge eating and why that was and I want to can I use the word crutch, because it's a lot of people use addiction as a crutch to
Yeah,
hide the symptom of something, of the core behavior, right?
sure. I
So
think. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, man. Like my, it's always I look at it in the sense of the easiest thing to do was the thing that was poisoning myself, right? It's like, oh, I'm stressed out, so now I got to go eat my face off, or it's
Mhm.
like, I mean, and I've talked to friends of mine that are recovering drug addicts, and we have the exact same symptoms. I mean, legitimately. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's kind of where I started to realize, like, the downfall of portion control and sort of, I guess, like what we've been taught in society, and sort of the overall perception of what nutrition is, doesn't really, that conversation is so different for someone that's struggled with their weight their whole life, morbidly obese, binge eats, because it has nothing. And I truly believe this, man. I love food. I come from a huge Italian family from Massachusetts. Like, I love carbs. I will never be but I've always surrounded it with guilt and shame, and I mean, to this day, my mom will call me and go, "Oh my God, I just ate chocolate. It's going right to my hips." And I'm like, "Oh God, Ma, just," what I mean? So there's always this kind of constant negative narrative that
Yeah.
is very challenging for someone that, has struggled with their weight their whole life, because I realize that was always the go-to. It's like, oh, I'm happy, I'm gonna eat. I'm sad, I'm gonna eat even worse. And so the easiest thing for me to do is always to just choose this bad thing to fuel something that was never actually fueling me. And so it was definitely a crush that I knew I had to get rid of. It was like, man, something's got to give, because showing up to be the best version of myself was impossible. Like, it was literally impossible. So I firmly believe that, like, the crutch component that you just mentioned is without question. I don't consider myself an addict, but I definitely feel like there are symptoms that are very similar to an actual drug addict and someone that's a binge eater, very similarly, because again, you're both feeding an addiction, but I don't consider it necessarily addiction. I think it's a mind frame shift once you understand your body.
Yeah, and the thing that is really easy to do today's society is, it's quick, easy, drive by, go through the drive-through, grab a couple of burgers or something like
Sure.
that, and pizza, okay, let's have it delivered. It's super, it's so easy to just get out of control, and
Uh-huh.
so I want to talk about the mindset or the change and the shift that you had. Is uh, like myself, I have a tendency to, uh, when I get stressed out, I like to work more.
Sure.
Mine is my go-to place is working more. The side effect, though, is that I gain weight. I'm, not active. I'm not, and I've been out biking every day,
Awesome.
recently. So it's to me, it was cut back on my intake, increase my activity, and get back and it's self-care. It has to do with self-care. Like, okay, take care of yourself, take breaks, you know you know get out of the house once in a while, do some other things, shift your activities. And with binge eating or something along those lines, um how did, to go out and take a break, it's like, you're going out to meal, or you're going out for coffee, or you're going out for, there's always, we're surrounded by food. So how did your mindset is how did that shift for you? So it was here to accept the fasting piece of the puzzle.
I took a very leisure approach to this, and I remember reading a book called The One Thing, which I recommend to a lot of people, and it just really revolutionized my thought process to figure out that I've been doing things so wrong my whole life when it comes to my weight. It's like I've been the biggest, which was this last year, to the leanest, and everything in between. And I look at all the regimens I used to do with like portion control, like chicken, rice, broccoli, like 6 meals a day. I've done literally everything. And I realized for me, I said, look, I come from the fitness industry. I was in the fitness industry for 6.5 years. I'm like, I know too much. And I think that was a problem too, right?
Oh, the curse of knowledge, right?
Yeah, totally. And and I've been out of that space for several years, but I realized coming into this thing, I said, look, I've always approached training. I was powerlifting and doing strongman training for years. So everything is surrounding it, even like physical activity, was always this monumental, like 2.5 to 3.5 hour ordeal, which was so like not sustainable for me. Too ambitious. I have other things outside of that. And I realized I was making like this whole thing as a whole, as opposed to a piece. So coming into this last year, I think I said right out of the gate, I don't want to even work out. I don't know how I'm going to feel fasting. I want to understand and let it consume me, and let me just go with really free mind to just go, let's just focus on this. I don't care about working out. I don't want to put pressure on myself to be like at the gym 6 days a week, because I know I'm going to fail if I do that. So
Yeah.
I kind of took the opposite approach, where people will say things like, if you're going to start dieting or lifestyle change, clean out your cupboard. I think it's polar opposite. I think you shouldn't avoid those things, because that's all you're going to do is think about it, right? So in sort of realizing again, I remember March 3rd at like 11:59 at night, I'm eating a bag of chips, like housing it, because I knew March 4th I was starting, and I'm like, I'm going all in, I'm going to do it. And I actually went into my first fast was about 42 hours. And what was surprising, being that big and letting, the food consume me in retrospect, I realized like it wasn't as hard as I thought it was. It really wasn't. And so I actually found like the people around me had more problem with it than I did. So if I was going out to a meeting or something at dinner time and I was on a fast, they'd be like, dude, why aren't you eating? And I'm like, guys, I'm okay. And I found that being around it and the aroma always was like, oh man, that smells great. That looks awesome. I'll definitely remember this place so I can come have this, at a later time. And I found that was a huge saving grace for me, because I think in terms of feeling like, if you're fasting, the thing you don't want to do is be around food, because you're going to be tempted. I actually found that I wasn't really tempted. And to this day, like, I just finished a 96-hour fast last night. So Sunday to Thursday, I hadn't eaten in 4 days. I doesn't feel different for me from day one to day four. And I think once you build up that tolerance and awareness, I've been around food for the last 5 days and stuff that I absolutely love. And I just said this the other day. I was like, man, I can't wait to have that, because usually Saturdays are my days I'll be more loose, and I won't be as like, I only want to eat this, or this. It's kind of like I'll have a bit more things that I enjoy, and I don't hold any guilt or any shame around it. It's like I'm unapologetic about the things that I love, and I'm unapologetic for things about I don't. So it's kind of kind of a good balance.
Well, I love that, and so that really kind of boils down to the idea that it's a mental game. It's the mental shift in your head that says, okay, I don't need this to survive right now. I need to allow my body to go without, and actually, you know, do something else with my time, and really kind of focus in on the mental aspect of it. Because once you, it's almost as if you, I'm reading, Tiny Habits
Sure.
And then there's Atomic Habits by James Clear, and a few of the books like that. It reminds me of that process. It's like if you're tied to a goal, it's kind of challenging, but you can reach a goal, and then after that goal's done, what do you do? And if you develop tiny habits of just a bit every day, it's just like, okay, you went with 48-hour fast, and then you went, and last, you ended up with a 96-hour fast.
Yeah.
You build up that muscle of mentality to allow yourself to kind of shift your focus on food,
Yeah.
and then focus, as you said, focus on the inside, and what is the pain that I'm trying to fill, that is, I can't quench this thirst or this appetite for my pain. And so you have to look on the inside and change your state of mind in order to accomplish this goal.
100%.
So yeah, what was the compared to start versus where you are now in your mental state, depression, anxiety,
Yep.
stress, some of those things. Talk about those things, because it's important for us to understand.
Yeah. I think recognizing that, binge eating I'm a binge eater. I know that. Like, I know that I've eaten my emotions, all those things. And I think having I remember I think I was probably 2 or 3 years old, actually being depressed, and I didn't know what it was, but I just remember that feeling and like this overall. So that's something chemically I think is always, well, it's in my family. It's definitely something that's I don't necessarily believe it's my identity. I don't want it to be my identity, but it's something that I know it's always been a problem. And until this last year, if you look at March 4th last year to March 4th this year, mentality wise, I am not even, like, if I couldn't even have a conversation, if I was talking to myself last year right now, I can't even relate, honestly, because it's like they always talk about breaking yourself down to nothing to rebuild. I can't stress enough how miserable my life was for years. It just was. And no one knew it. Sure, you could physically see that I was big, but I was really good with putting the face on. I have a really big personality, so everyone's like, "Man, you're always happy." I'm like, if you only knew what was actually going on in my head right now. But I actually just, even to this day, it's still hard for me sometimes to even just talk about things that are bothering me. And I'm a musician too, so like that's always been another muse for me to just kind of dive into. And actually, it's interesting. I was on tour from 22 to 27. I was signed when I was 22 to a record label and played music all over the world. It was my biggest, it still is my biggest passion in life, right?
Yeah,
And
mine too.
yeah, man. And I know that, which is awesome. But I just remember
The
getting to
link,
this point.
we have the LinkedIn band.
Dude, seriously, I know. It's funny. I have my guitar back here. It's always like an arm length away because I have ideas and I'm always riffing. But I hadn't picked up my guitar in like 6 years. I got like really, yeah, it was insane. And all my friends that are in professional bands and stuff like couldn't believe it because I write songs. I'm a songwriter for sure. And I got away from it for so long, and then this last year, back in April, around my birthday, I just said, again, I'm almost a little over a month into fasting, and all of a sudden, my mind starts getting clearer, and it's like, and I realized the things that I was filling it with prior, like we said, right? It's like almost like you no longer have that crutch, and so it's like, well, what can I now add into this thing, which is for me, it was going to Guitar Center and finding this acoustic and I love playing acoustic, man. It's my only way I've ever write because I think it's very much the foundation for me of every aspect of my life where I don't need the glitz and glamour or like all the entire professional setting. I just need an acoustic. And if I know I have the concept, I see all the drums, and I see the entire arrangement on the rarest form of like the simplest foundation. It's gonna sound amazing. It will sound amazing with the whole ensemble of things. And so I think even with music, I don't use it as a crutch with modern technology. I think I go the polar opposite way. So I think
Mm.
in terms of like kind of how I approached this fasting year and everything else, last April, I allowed music to come back into me because it was like, it's like, dude, what are you doing? It's not even a matter of a want. It's like, if I'm not writing music, I realize that's where I can start getting really down the rabbit hole of just, I feel extremely detached from life, because that's the way
Mm.
I can express myself. And I think between that and writing poetry, those are two areas where I've always really shined in, just to be able to express myself. And I think this last year really opened that portal again to me, to realize all the things that I was fueling myself negatively, all of a sudden realize, wow, like I actually want these other things that are so much better for me and make me such a better person. And I think that was a huge factor for sure.
Well, and to kind of amplify what you're saying is I I'm doing exactly what I'm doing right now as a result of my, y my falling 3 stories and going from being a drummer to having a broken arm and no wrist and no elbow, and so the creative part and some of the things that had to take place for me, kinda wiping the slate clean and saying, "Okay, I can't do that, so I have to do something else," is somewhat like if you're depressed, what you're thinking about is the creativity part of the process, and the first thing that you should be thinking about, right?
Right. Mhm.
Because if you're creating, if you're expanding and doing what you love, it's harder for depression to take ownership of your mindset,
Sure.
right? And it sounds, and I'm not sure this is you or this is the case, but and for me, it's when I wasn't doing music and it wasn't creating, I wasn't putting that piece of the puzzle in my life, when it was outside of my life is when I got most depressed,
Yeah.
you know? And you notice it because it's so slowly, it's kinda like this little thing that creeps in, and it's like, okay, it takes up space, and all of the things you love are pushed out of your life, and
Yeah.
then you get depressed. Then you go to things that are unhealthy, whether it's smoking, drinking, whatever it happens to be, and it's this and I understand and appreciate kinda some of the that puzzle, and I applaud you and thank you for sharing this, and, I hope this message helps and lands on somebody that hear it right now because it's important to me to share these kind of conversations and concepts with people that there are people out there that there are people out there changing they're doing to somewhere else, and, we all have a journey to go through, and so it's really important for us to know that you're not alone. You know,
Mhm.
these things are these things are out here. So there's a lot of people. Hey, I wanna take a second, Mike, and just appreciate Gabriel's on here, Heather's here, Wendy's here, Lori Knudsen, Pavlina, uh, Carl. I see Kenyatta's in the house, Leslie Osborne, probably a lot of these people that you already know. Derek Monroe, Jeff Young, so much for being here. Melissa, Preston, Angie, thank you. Sherry Lawley, always supporting. Uh, if you have questions about this and you're not to Mike, just go ahead and reach out to Mike. And he's an awesome individual that is just really pouring a lot of his journey into the story here. And I just want to thank you so much for being here, Mike. And so what's kind of in the future? Is this you're going to continue and start getting back into music and we're firing up the
Yeah.
Lincoln band, or what's the deal?
Totally, man. So yeah, I mean, I think my funness at this point is just the fact that I've kind of found something that's definitely a part of me now with fasting. And I still got another probably 35-40 pounds to get to my goal weight, which will be wonderful. And then do I see myself at that point doing 96s and at that kind of extremity? Probably not. I probably would be more around the 24, 48s, kind of somewhere around there. I
Mhm.
definitely don't I don't like eating every day at all. It just doesn't work with me. And so that's definitely something I'm going to kind of continue for sure. And then music, I've probably written, I don't know, almost 400 songs this last year that I'm looking forward to kind of, just diving back in the studio this coming year to work on a bunch of music. And then, kind of in this process, we started working on a new company that we're developing right now, which is more around CBD oil. So we're kind of focused around
Okay.
in that sort of space, and it's been kind of something I've been fascinated by, and I found a lot of positive effects from that as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, and that's kind of the main stuff I'm really tied into right now.
You're up in the Northeast, as I recall.
So
The
yeah, so actually I'm from Massachusetts, but I'm in Midwest in Milwaukee now. Yep.
Okay. Do you know Ariel Margolis?
I'm not sure.
I should connect you guys. He's doing training in CBD as well. So
Oh, excellent.
he's a very advocate for that, and also Rex Powers here in Arizona as well. So
Oh, excellent.
community on that, and it's just there's a lot of things that we don't understand, and a lot of benefit people put labels on that may not necessarily be it. So just
Yeah.
saying.
Yep.
So the reality is fasting doesn't necessarily need to be 96 hours. It can be 24, it can be 48 at times. And
Yep.
and and what's the emotion or what's the feeling that you have from your physical layer versus your mental state when you're fasting? And what's the experience other people have had that you've talked to as far as
Um,
fasting goes?
Yeah, and I think it's different for everyone, and I think it just comes down to their tolerance. And some people will experience like their first, and it's funny because I didn't experience any of this. Like people, and sometimes in the first couple of days, or if they're doing a 24-hour fast, they're like, "Oh my God, I have a headache. I have, I'm starving. I just want a house food," and like I think it's also just comes back to the individual. And so for me, I'm an extremist on every level. I just
Mm,
am. So if I do something, it's never just like, oh, I'll just have a piece of pizza. It's like I'm gonna eat the whole. Like everything I do has always been, to the fullest extremes, and I'm okay with that because that's just it's who I am in retrospect.
yeah.
But
Well, you just need to understand how your body works and how your mindset works as it relates to that. It's like
yep,
riding 400. That's an amazing feat for
yeah,
any
totally.
rider, right? It's like, okay, 40's not enough. I'm gonna go 400.
Yeah, well, and then it's funny because I had this old iPhone 6S Plus that like it was I was delete I had like no apps in it because I had this little recording app and I kept writing all my riffs on that, and then started transferring that over to a Dropbox eventually. But it's just yeah, man, it's like this. I think like the best thing I can sort of tell people that do fast or that I've talked to about it or that are interested in it, just don't
Yeah,
set an expectation from the beginning. Like if the guy I started working with, Nick, said, "Hey man, I want you to fast for 96 hours," that I wouldn't have done it. Like I know I would have failed. So he just
yeah,
said, "Look, I want you to fast for as long as you can until you feel like
yeah,
you need to." That's it. And I was like, okay. Oh, and like I think that whole societal pressure of like, oh my God, I didn't, I didn't work out this way. I'm gonna lose it. All these things. It's just, I think we already set ourselves up to fail when we put so many like diligently fine-tuned details that don't really matter. And I think kind of going back to the one thing and sort of that focus of just, well, what's the one thing that will universally change my life in all aspects, which I knew it was my health. So
mhm,
it's like in the trajectory to get there, I found I believe I found the simplest way to maintain the most optimized brain, neurotransmitters in your mind to overall sense of wellness and well-being with one, just the discipline. I've realized how great it is to feel that I don't need, even though we need food and nutrients to survive. I don't need it in the sense that I want to feed my addiction, right? It's like when I want to eat something out of my norm, I do. I don't care, and I
Yeah.
don't feel like we can hold those stigmas around it anymore, because it's just like once you sort of achieve that, like, you know, your first 24-hour fast or 18, whatever, you start to see like, wow, actually maybe this isn't that bad. And then the next day you're like, hey, maybe I'll see I'm around 26 hours or 27. And it's
Yeah.
just one step at a time. But the almost everyone I talk to that have been doing prolonged fasting or whatever, they say the same thing. You hit this wave where it's no longer like I can't say it's an out of body experience by any stretch, because I just feel that's a little too righteous sounding. But I think you really feel like you're kind of in this flow state, because your body's
Yeah.
internal organs, like you were mentioning earlier,
Yeah.
develop a new. It's basically recycling and getting rid of old cells, bad cells, and recycling new. I mean, I can look at pictures from when I was 22. I'm 36 now. I look younger now than I did back then, and it's
Oh, wow.
wild. Yeah. And so and actually they've stated that it's one of the most like anti-aging best regimens for anti-aging. So I was like, I'm all in, dude.
Nice. Nice. Well, thank you so much for being Mike. I want to track your journey, and really I'm serious about this idea of creating some music somewhere, because I mean
Yeah,
there's lots of platforms that you can actually collaborate with other people
of
around the
course.
country and take some tracks and stuff like that. And I'm a nerd. Like I got into technology so I could actually learn how to write MIDI, and it's
Yeah.
this program in Ableton Live and some of these programs that are, I was doing dubstep in Houston a number of years ago, and it's just
Oh,
like,
nice.
there's always an outlet. There's always a way that you could do this. So
Mhm.
for everyone here, I I appreciate that. Angela's I once fasted 3 days and swear that everyone decided to grill out every day, every one of those meals. It's like, and it's like, it's all in here. It's a lot of what we're doing. Have you ever been Hoff about
Oh, of
breathing?
course. Yeah, totally. He's someone that I'm fascinated by, because I've tried the meditation thing. It doesn't work. My brain's, it just goes too much, and it's very challenging for me to slow it down. And I've kind of realized I don't want to slow it down. So his breathing techniques are fascinating. And it's actually, I have a friend of mine that's going out to study with him or to live with him for about a month or so. And
Oh,
he's
wow.
looking to develop cold, like basically like a bathhouse for cold remedies. And I was like, that's insane. But like people are all about it. So yeah, it's really fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mike, thank you for broadcast. For everyone that joined us, thank you. You know, if you're listening to the replay, uh, check out Mike, encourage him, connect, have conversations around this, because your mental illness, depression, all of these things play in our lives. This is everyday stuff. We're all dealing with it. Everybody's, not happy in Instagram. It's like, don't look at don't look at person. Look at how you can help other people along the way and assist other people in doing things and setting the example and setting the tone. So I really appreciate and applaud you for what you're doing, Mike, and keep us informed and updated on your progress, and I love that. And also maybe share a track. Just saying.
And
So
would you say share a track? Dude, you know what, actually I
yeah,
was,
share a few tracks.
you know what we should do? We should write a song for your show.
Deal. I love that. I
That
love
would be
that.
cool.
We could definitely some intros and outros,
Yep.
because this is a community. Just because we're not in the physical same location, we do have a community.
Oh,
I
totally.
have I have Pirate Broadcast on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you want to join the community, go and track down the Pirate Broadcast. I got the Pirate Syndicate fired up. So I want to create shows for other people and help them along. And also I'm going to be doing some I'm going to be doing some workshops because a lot of people ask me all about, how I do things. So I'm
Yeah,
going to be putting that out there as well. So I'd love to have everyone share that out and
yeah,
appreciate the support for the community and help each other out. So
absolutely.
Mike, so Mike, kindness is cool, smiles are free, and everyone, got to enjoy the day.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care.